Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Danville City Commission this evening, Monday, August 26th. The hour is 5:30. I will call us all to order, and I ask we be led in a moment of prayer by Commissioner Denise Terry.
Please bow your heads with me. God Almighty, we thank you for the gift of life and the opportunity to serve the people of our city. We ask that you help us to act with character and conviction, to listen with understanding and goodwill, and to speak with charity and restraint. Give us a spirit of service and guide us to be the leaders your people need. Help us to listen with humility, open minds, and spirits. Renew our spirits to appreciate the joy of helping to build a community worthy of the human person. In your goodness and love, amen.
Amen. I will ask that we be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by Mr. James Hunn, Jr. Young James Hunn. Come on up here, come on up here, come on up here. Come on up here, yeah.
You still remember it? You know it?
We're going to find out. Thank you, sir. Came back to you pretty easily, didn't it? Commission, you have had before you tonight's agenda. With any further input, I will assume it meets your approval, and we will proceed to hear the public. This is the public's opportunity to take 3 minutes at the podium to address any subject that is on tonight's agenda. There will be an opportunity later on to do the same on any subject not on tonight's agenda. Is there anyone like to talk about any subject on tonight's agenda? Seeing not, we'll move right on into item 1, the approval of the minutes from the meeting of August the 12th. Chair will entertain a motion to approve at your leisure.
I move to approve the minutes of the meeting of August 12, 2019 as presented.
Thanks, Commissioner Cottle. Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks, Commissioner Terry. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Item 2 is the banner request from the March of Dimes. I know we have a couple of folks here. I will ask City Manager Scott. I'm going to assume that this banner meets all the conformities that we require. Okay. If you all would like to say something and promote, feel free.
Jeanette Holland, March of Dimes. I've been with the March of Dimes about 10 years, and we'd like to put up the banner just a week before the walk, the 16th through the 21st. And I'd like to invite everyone to the walk Saturday, September 21st, 10 to noon. And if you're not familiar with March of Dimes, we help fundraise for healthy families, healthy babies, and work with local families also. It's a big deal to have the walk locally again. It's been about 5 years since we've been local. Last time we had a local walk, we raised about $45,000.
Wow.
And I'd love for everyone to be involved. We have several local families that have been touched by this, and please join us September 21st.
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions for Jenny? Then the chair will entertain a motion for the banner approval.
So moved.
Thank you, Commissioner Saris. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Atkins. Discussion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Item 3 has been postponed temporarily as Mr. Riegelman is out of town. So we'll move to item 4. It's resolution number 2019-08-26-01. This is the city manager advertisement and recruitment brochure approval. Mr. Scott, the floor is yours.
Thank you, sir. The commission has in your packet the recommended recruitment brochure and the recommended job announcement that our consultants have been working on since we last had them in Danville. I had the opportunity to review and suggest a few small edits for accuracy in this document. I think it's an exceptional document that would serve as a great platform for recruiting qualified candidates. I don't know that we need to go through it for the benefit of the public. We will place it on our webpage following tonight's meeting with any changes, if you see any are necessary. But it's for your review and comment and approval so that we can begin the active phase of recruitment of the next city management or city manager through the Bob Slavin firm. As you will recall, they indicated the timeline that would be likely or perhaps guaranteed to have a candidate for your review would be 90 days from the date this was approved.
Okay.
Did you make your edits prior to us receiving this, or have you made edits on this?
No, prior to, you have the
Okay.
final version, and there were
Okay.
just a couple of typos and sentences and a few formatting things and maybe a wrong description of the great turtle race being in Danville rather than one of our great communities nearby and things like that.
You're seeking a motion of approval, I take it?
Yes, our consultants are seeking your approval of both the recruitment brochure and the job advertisement.
Do I hear a motion for the resolution?
It's not a resolution approval. I'll make that motion, and I want to talk about some further edits after.
Okay. We have a motion
And a
I'll
second?
and a second from
Mr. Atkins.
Mr. Atkins. Thank you. Floor is open. Commissioner
Sure,
Sears?
sure. So I'd request that staff take another look at it and do some more edits. Personally, I was just looking through it, and I could be wrong, but I don't think we have a winery anymore, and there's a few small things like that I think we ought to be correct on. And most of those are on the City of Danville attractions.
You may be correct in some of those attractions listed. I picked up some of those. They were taken from, I think, our current or former EDP webpage as the basis of what would be interesting for people to be involved with in this community. But which particular change would you suggest? And if the board approves it tonight, we can make that and they can just go on with.
Yeah, and maybe you just help me with my ignorance, but I think the winery is closed. This is on City of Danville attractions in a square box, and it's right before Dollhouse Museum, but I don't think we have a winery anymore, and I just want to be kind of accurate on our stuff, and I really don't know where the Abraham Lincoln Museum is, so you might help me with that.
That's in Forkland.
Okay, thank you. Tom Dorman State Nature Preserve. Tom Dorman State Nature Preserve. Okay, thank you. So I guess the winery's the only edit there.
You still can't interact with the folks. It's not open, it doesn't have regular hours of operation.
Just thought I'd bring it up if we're trying to be accurate.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I call the question. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries.
And that'll be up on the website tomorrow, you say?
Yes, sir.
Very good.
Item 5 is the city manager report. Mr. Scott?
Yes, sir. I and the staff have been working on quite a number of projects. I went into some enumeration on those a meeting or two back, and I've not prepared an update to all of those, although we are continuing to work on Main Street, streetscape, and we, of course, had our grand opening at the Lexington Avenue Playground Park this past Thursday. I will say that of two significant areas of activity recently have been our review of the Danville Master Plan Consultant Selection Study, and that's a little later in the agenda tonight. And I have begun the process, but I haven't completed the process of recommendations to you regarding the county ordinance on Parks and Recreation. There was a news story over the weekend that kind of, I got a little bit involved with, despite my intent not to, because of our proactive efforts of our local reporter to keep everybody abreast of breaking news. And so we did that, but I want to have an opportunity to talk with our Parks and Recreation Executive Director and perhaps with others this week. And before our next City Commission meeting, I will have recommendations to you for your consideration on the ordinance proposed by the county.
Okay.
So I don't know that there's any other real newsworthy events for me at this particular point in time. So I guess that will conclude my report as we have this last meeting before Labor Day.
Any questions for Mr. Scott?
What sort of timeline would you hope for as far as Parks and Rec and all that coming to some sort of volley on our side or whatever we're doing right now?
Well, the crystal ball question, is a good question. And if memory serves, we have been debating or discussing this general approach issue for a year and a half, going on 2 years as a minimum, and maybe longer than that if you really dig into the issues of funding and organization. I think necessarily we're going to reach some conclusion between now and the funding of the next year's budget. So how quickly both sides would agree to that, I don't know. But I think
Right.
in reality, we're both going to speak with our budget in terms of what we're going to fund and how we're going to operate. So personally, I would hope to have some sort of closure on this issue for my exit plans at the end of this year, if that is any guide to my intent. Now, whether we accomplish that or not, I don't know.
Right, yeah, I understand. I just didn't know if you were going to try to just put it off and wiggle out of it or not, there, Ron. I don't know.
Playing off of that, Commissioner Caudell, I'll move my commissioner comment to here. I want to commend the Parks and Rec Board and their director on making a statement on how they feel Parks and Rec should be in this county, with Danville being in the city. So I think that probably a year ago, the Parks and Rec Board felt like they weren't worth anything, and so now I think that you have some worth, and I appreciate you guys making a statement on that.
Anything else, sir?
No, sir.
Okay, we will move into the section called Hear the Public. This is a promised time. The public will take 3 minutes at the podium on any subject that is not on tonight's agenda. See no takers, so we'll move right into commissioner comments, if there are any.
Yeah, I'd like to take a look over here at Commissioner Terry, who sponsored Ice Cream Day for Parks and Rec, and have any comments on that? We appreciate that.
Well, it was my pleasure. I was actually not able to be there to actually hand out the ice cream, but my husband went in my place, and I don't know exactly how many cups of ice cream they gave out, but it was
81.
81?
Yep.
81. So
That's good.
it was good.
I think it's a nice thing that they are doing to introduce the public to a park maybe they didn't know about before, or reintroduce them. And plus, the giveaways are good, so
That's
we
right.
appreciate the sponsorship.
I'd like to again thank staff, and that's a deep bench when it comes to talking about the water park at the water treatment facility. I know it was a bit of time coming, but by the expression on the kids and the sound of the kids, and I understand that continued over the weekend.
Yeah. There's a big crowd all
Worth
weekend.
every bit of it, and that's the kind of thing that we provide at the city. And I think it will be it'll be a focal point going forward. So kudos to the Public Works folks for getting all that done. Anything else?
I was going to remind my fellow commissioners and the community about the CCHR, Citizens Concern for Human Relations, and the City Commission and the Fiscal Court and the Kentucky Humanities Council are sponsoring a community potluck this coming Sunday, the 1st of September, 5:00 p.m. at Pioneer Playhouse. It's open to citizens of Boyle and Mercer and Lincoln County, and just want to remind everyone that the deadline to register to sign up your family and tell us what good food you're going to bring to share is this coming Thursday. So please call the number that's on the flyer and get yourself registered and come have a great afternoon with us. The theme for the potluck is unity, and we have some very interesting live entertainment for this Sunday afternoon. So if you're going to be in town Labor Day weekend, come out and join us. Thank you.
I'll second. Go ahead. You go ahead.
I was just going to say that the reason I could not hand out the ice cream last week was because Mr. Scott and I attended the Trust Belt Conference. It was mostly corporations and site selectors, but it was very interesting to hear the other side of economic development and kind of what they're looking for and what helps them to decide where to locate their facilities. So it was very educational. I'm glad we went.
Ron, anything you want to add to that?
Well, there were a variety of very successful businesses making presentation and panel discussions. One of the takeaways, which is not a new takeaway, but they do emphasize the fact that nothing would happen
Yep.
without the appropriate skilled workforce.
Can't hear you, Ron.
That was for all types of work, whether it be the new robotics that are coming or manufacturing, light manufacturing in terms of whatever it may be. And so areas that have the skilled workforce are going to be ahead of those that do not in attracting future industries. That was one of many. It was a very enjoyable one. They looked ahead to the predicting the future of our trade wars and economy, for example. There were discussions about whether robotics would replace people or give them different ways of working. It was a very educational and thought-provoking conference. It was not a conference, though, as I first thought it was, where you would go and drag an industry home right away. It wasn't that type of conference.
You got to go back.
We'll have to go back, perhaps, but very enjoyable and intellectually interesting conference.
So it would seem that having the BCTC here would be a feather in our cap for sure.
I make one more comment about some of our attributes here. And the farmers market, I've been attending the last few Saturdays in light of me not having to do a fun run like I usually do, but it looks very successful, and they started having live music, and I was told by Mr. Naval that they're going to have music all the way to the fall, so it's a pretty entertaining time downtown Saturday mornings. I think that's great. You guys are doing a good job.
No other comments, we'll move right into the financial section. Item 6, payment of bills. Chair will entertain a motion regarding the bills.
I'll move to pay the August 26, 2019 bill list, $156,246.16.
Second.
There's a motion by Commissioner Atkins, second by Commissioner Terry. Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Item 7 is the second reading of ordinance number 1936. This is in regards to the compensation classification for fiscal year 2019-2020. Madam Clerk, would you like to read that ordinance, please?
This is the second reading of ordinance number 1936, an ordinance amending CDO 2-96 pertaining to the classification plan, compensation plan, and policies and procedures for city personnel.
Move for approval of the second reading of ordinance 1936.
Thank you, sir. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Sears. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Atkins?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Terry?
Yes.
Mayor Paris?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Cottle?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Saris?
Yes.
Item 8 is the second reading of ordinance number 1937. This is the tax rate for ad valorem tax for the fiscal year 1920. Madam Clerk, would you like to read that, please?
This is the second reading of ordinance number 1937, an ordinance establishing ad valorem tax rates for fiscal year 2019, 2020, and penalties for non-payment.
Do I hear a motion?
I move for approval of ordinance number 1937.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there a second?
Second?
Thank you, sir. Discussion? Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Terry?
Yes.
Mayor Paris?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Cottle?
Yes, ma'am.
Commissioner Saris?
Yes.
Commissioner Atkins?
Yes, ma'am.
Item 9 is resolution 2019-08-26-02. This is the change order number 4 for the Second Street Bridge project. Mr. Castle?
Sir, Mayor, Commissioners, public, all this is a change order to the Second Street Bridge contract, because we use those guys to do the 2 red concrete bowls at the splash pad. And that was a previous change order and everything, but this here is for a little bit extra that was added on to make it a little bit safer for the kids as they were running around.
Do I hear a motion for that approval?
I move to accept resolution 2019-08-2602.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Sears and Commissioner Cottle. Discussion?
You already got your accolades, John, from the mayor.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign.
Can I ask John a question before you get too far?
You certainly may.
Since we're talking about Second Street, and you did a great job down there, or the contractors did in your oversight, can you tell us anything about finishing the sidewalk and the connecting the trail there?
Yes, sir, that's in the queue. We were just discussing it today after we finished up the splash pad. We've gotten the splash pad to the point where it's usable, but we still have to do the overflow spillway. That needs to be a concrete function. Got several other functions, fixing some curb and gutter out here for the state, doing their overlay and different things like that. And that's going to be up there like number 2 on our work. Probably be doing that first and then moving down to Second Street. So hopefully in the next 2 or 3 weeks, the guys will be getting that wrapped up. We're hoping to get it done early enough that they can get it graded and get the grass growing on it.
Appreciate hearing a timeline. I think people can understand when you're busy, but kind of like to know when it's going to be finished. So thank you.
Item 10 is the downtown master plan consultant selection discussion. Mr. Coffey, you want to lead the way on this?
I can do that. Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. The city received August 13th respondents to the RFP issued requesting proposals to conduct the downtown master plan project. We listed those consultants. We actually were in contact with more than, or reached out to us, more than 25 firms, which is a fairly high number. What you end up seeing is conglomerations or collaborations. I'm trying to think of the word. Collaborations. For example, City Visions, who's listed, partnered with another landscape architect firm that was also contacted, Carmen and Associates. So all those are listed. The city has gone through city staff. The city manager directed or assembled us as a small little working group, myself and Mr. Laster with the EDP. We looked at the proposals and have ranked those, not necessarily 1, 2, 3, or 1 to 8, but we broke them into what we felt like were the top 3 in alphabetical order. Was Brochure and Associates, City Visions and Associates, and the Walker Collaborative. We felt like those were all highly qualified and represented a diverse set of options for the commission. For example, Brochure's in Kentucky, done work here. City Visions also from Kentucky, but has done work not here, but in other towns our size. And Walker Collaborative is not from Kentucky, but has a different set of expertise, and we tried to illustrate that in our memo to you. So at this time, staff is, unless Ron wants to step in and say something different, staff is asking direction on how the city commission wishes to proceed. Typically, interviews would occur for a project of this nature, and so how do you want that to happen? City staff can do that, or the same committee, we could conduct interviews. Normally, or many times, you would see the city commission conduct the interview in a workplace or a workshop-style meeting where you have one firm come in, make a presentation, that's over, then the next firm come in, and so forth. So certainly, we'll entertain whatever direction you all would like us to take.
That would be my preference, to have a workshop sort of setting and just have them come in and give us their best shot and see where we go from there. These are three, from what I saw, very qualified groups here, and I'm sure it'll be a tough decision, but I think it's easier when you can see them face to face and talk to them face to face.
Can we do that and also make sure we get staff input on this?
I have a couple comments, as per usual, I guess. I think you did a good job as well, and certainly looking at folks that have experience with us, and Brochure was one of them. And nobody's directed me, but Branstead or Carroll has had a lot of experience with us. Do you want to make any small comment on why they didn't make the cut?
I not necessarily.
Okay.
I would have to go back and look at our notes.
Okay.
They just, from what I recall, they didn't score the highest number of points in total. Certainly, we felt like, or I would suggest that all the firms that responded, or the collaborative efforts that were assembled, they were all capable of doing the work, in my opinion. This is one of those where all 8 of them that responded, I would say, are very qualified and certainly could complete the project that you all directed them to do. I think that looking at the proposals that are in front of us and the way they presented themselves in the submittals, I think that these 3 scored the most points, probably. And I think that's why they're the ranked highest. And I think that's based on the scoring criteria and the way they presented that in this submittal.
It's a good enough answer for me. I only bring it up because we just came off the city manager thing, and a lot of things that weighed on my mind, and I think some of my fellow commissioners, was experience that was close to us. And if they didn't make the cut, there was probably a reason, but I didn't know what it was.
So, would it be a good use of our time to pick a day, or should we wait for you to find out when they're available?
That's a good question. Well, I'll run through the city manager's office, and we'll try to coordinate a day and probably suggest a couple times, because we'll want to make sure that we get on these firms' calendars and make sure we allow them time to prepare also.
Is that reasonable?
While we're waiting for that date and for their preparation, I'd just like to ask the commission a question. Seeing that these bids are from $65,000 to $100,000 possible expenditure, I keep asking myself, who in Danville is going to really benefit from us doing this study? And if the answer is a multitude of groups of people and organizations, then I toss out my second question, and that is, why is the city of Danville footing the bill for this by ourselves again? Or aren't we seeking support financially from others who are going to benefit from such an intensive study?
Well, people may have their different answers to that question, but my answer is that we are the city. We're trying to have a service provider that's going to help us with our future vision, that's going to benefit all organizations and all the residents of Danville. So the city is the most proper organization really to fund and conduct that. And it avoids the potential for conflicts of interest in terms of how you operate or how you might determine who those consultants might be, for example. So it's the cleanest and most effective way, even though it does cost a little bit to do.
Anyone else want to respond to my questions?
I'm glad
You know where this is coming from, right? All right, so Ross, anybody else want to respond to this? Everybody's okay with?
I think Ron's answer was,
Okay.
I'm
Well,
satisfied with that.
I'm just looking for an answer to take out to the community. I don't have a
understand that
personal
as
need
well.
for an answer, but
I
Make
think
sure to
some
take it.
of the people who we would possibly seek funding from, we fund ourselves anyway,
yeah.
I'm guessing, so.
Well, I was going to ask did you have particular entities in mind that might want to contribute, or are you just tossing it out there for?
Was there a volunteer back there? Want to answer my question? Sure. All right. Oh, I better not do that, though. I don't know if I have the right to do that. All right.
Brian Huxley, Center College, and Center College would be more than happy to be a partner. Ron and I talked about it, so I agree there can be the perception of a conflict of interest, but done right, that you have a number of community members that are willing to support it. It's a big bill. Center did a campus master plan, so I know how expensive it is. I also know how important it is to do it right. And I don't know which firm came in as far as the dollar amount, but the best firm might cost the most. And if the best firm, it's worth finding the money. And I know there's others. I won't name them because they're not here, but I've talked to other citizens and community members, and I know they'd be willing to contribute. So if you decide to go that route, you've got one volunteer.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
We appreciate that.
I-
Anybody else want to come up?
Yeah.
Come on.
How about CBB?
I appreciate you starting that, Commissioner Atkins, because that kind of relieved my other concern of, I think our staff does a good job of multitasking, but we have a few balls in the air, and one of them is not completed, and that's the wayfinding project, and it seems like you would get the kickback. Why start a new project when you haven't finished an old one? Along with that goes fire station, but I mean, that's under, but if we're going to get some help on this, then that's a different deal in my mind.
Well, this has been in the works for a while, but yeah, I'm not opposed to getting help at all.
Let me interject a comment also, if I may. Any of these final firms, or almost any of the firms, all of them have a robust approach to seeking community input. So you don't have to pay to play. And sometimes, if you do, that gives the perception that you have special leverage in terms of outcome. But we want something that's going to be available to all organizations in the community, all individuals, and I'm certain that whether money is ponied up for this or not to relieve the total cost, you're going to have a robust, interactive, and very active discussion of the future of Danville. So that's the expertise that these firms bring, and they will no doubt have some mechanism where they will have advisory boards or bodies that will be invited to weigh in and help them in discerning what the values and future desires of this community might be.
Well, I think, like Commissioner Cottle said, some of the people that might contribute, we fund, so that's kind of just passing money back and forth. But I think it makes sense, especially for the CBB, to contribute if they are willing. But I really don't have an opinion on that. But I do think it needs to be a collaborative effort, regardless of who gets money or not. You know, like
Oh, I agree.
we
Yeah,
need to
absolutely.
take into consideration that Center College just did their master plan, and that the hospital probably has a master plan that they are working on, and I'm sure CVB has some sort of plan as well, and
Art
so
has things they want to see,
I just think those things, it needs to be a collaborative effort, and I don't necessarily mean financially when I say that, and I'm sure it will be, so that's why we'll have a workshop and
Well, and,
talk about that.
Commissioner Siri just went to signage, and that's another
Another layer.
big ticket item that we are financing by ourselves, and there stands to be lots of folks in the community benefit from that study as well. And so I would toss out the same caveat that if anybody wants to help pay for 100 signs, we'd be willing to let them donate the money to the city if that's legal according to the city attorney.
I thought CBB was doing some of that.
What was that last thing?
Center College was a big partner, so was the Industrial Foundation. We had a lot of players at the table ready to try again.
Again, a good news, and just to, we have projects that are going on, so hopefully they'll come to fruition at some point, because frustration will come in before fruition will.
Well, I brought the question before the commission because in the community, there are folks that are out there who are saying, so-and-so wants to help give money to some of these activities. And so if there's some truth behind that, they can, if they want to pay without playing or pay to play, I don't know what you do, but it needs to be discussed so we'll know that that is out there. And I don't have a position. But the real question at hand, though, is how are we going to get these three proposals down to one? And we really never gave Earl an answer, I don't think.
Commissioner, you all discussed it at length enough for us. We'll get with the city manager, we'll schedule a time and coordinate a workshop with you folks and these three firms, and they'll come in and make individual presentations to you. And then from that, you can decide which firm you want to proceed with, which is very typical.
Yeah, but I'd also want to have staff involved in the presentations that we're going to witness.
Right.
Some of the experts present.
Right.
We will plan to participate in that as well, in that workshop or workshops.
So I think what I'm hearing you too is kind of a hybrid of number 2 and 3 in the memo.
Yeah.
Where it would be a workshop setting, but as presiding officer, the mayor could turn it over to staff to conduct the actual interview, but it would be an open meeting where all commissioners could participate as well. If I'm hearing you correctly, I think that's what you're looking at, staff to actually conduct the interview, but in the presence of your presence in an open meeting.
And I'm sure we'll have our own questions. too.
Sure.
I like it. Y'all good with that?
Yep.
Yes.
Item 11 is resolution number 2019-08-26-03. This is a grant award for highway safety. Chief Terry?
Mayor and Commissioners. Yes, sir. It's just a standard highway safety grant. Runs from October through June 30th, 2020. It's a state grant or federal grant, but state campaigns, click it a ticket, drive us over, get pulled over, highway and roadblocks, things like that.
Doesn't it historically go mostly for overtime, or has been?
It's mainly for overtime. We apply for the grant. We apply for $28,200, and it pays pretty much all the overtime, vehicle usage, gasoline, all that good stuff goes into that.
Very good.
Okay, do I hear a motion?
I move to approve resolution 2019-08-2603 as presented.
Thank you, Commissioner Atkins. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Cottle, discussion?
So overtime, it's listed in here, your overtime as a result, just so the people know, of putting more time into some safety interaction out there. Not just overtime for the sake of overtime, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
This grant, the officers have to log so many, what they call contacts per hour. This is a grant that does have stipulations attached to the overtime. It's just not football overtime or basketball. It's none of that. It's all traffic, and it has to be documented. And
that's what I wanted the public to hear.
They have to be actively patrolling and writing tickets.
And I also want to thank Tony and his department, Chief Doan in particular, for the Citizens Academy. I'm enjoying that very much, and y'all, most of y'all done it, haven't you? If you haven't, you need to. It's nice. Fun.
You're asking most questions.
What's that?
I hear you're the one asking most questions.
I don't know what I'm doing there, so I don't ask a thing. I just hope I don't kill anybody.
Any further comments or questions?
We'll see if we can get Kevin on that grant also.
Barney. If there's no other comments, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. That is the extent of our regular meeting tonight. I think we have executive session, I believe.
I had thought there would be a need to request that, but I do not request that we have an executive session tonight.
Okay.
All right.
Well, there's nothing else to come before us.
Anybody want a song and dance or anything? We're kind of early.
Yeah, it's like 40 minutes worth. You ready?
Maybe not 40 minutes worth. I move that we adjourn this lovely meeting.
I will second that.
Seconded, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Have a good evening.
Thank you.